Hi, welcome to the podcast. One of my favorite people. Met her spring of 22, and I wish we had more time to talk, but she is a very, very important person. I don't think you know who she is, though, but she is extremely important, perhaps very much so to your kids. We'll get to that guest shortly, and we'll take care of business, what she does, and Hunger Action Awareness Month in September. But if you can hang out to the end, I dive into I unleash the sports knowledge or the sports talk host in me that is long retired. But she is one of the few people I will have these discussions with because she knows her stuff. That's for the end. We'll have business first. First, we start with a terrible tragedy. I mean, there's no other way to put it. You know my take on this. We talk about it every time there's an OVI checkpoint. Johnny Gaudreau, Johnny Hockey, who I believe was, where was it? With Calgary. And he signed with the Columbus Blue Jackets a couple of years ago. He's dead. He and his brother are dead. They were killed by, I think this was in New Jersey somewhere. I believe he grew up in South Jersey, somewhere near Philadelphia. He was riding his bike. I believe his sister's wedding was maybe today or tomorrow. He and his brother were killed by someone under the influence. That person has been charged. Copy and paste and rant once again. Drunk driving is about as close to 100% preventable as you can get. If you don't want to wait 90 minutes for an Uber, too bad. If you don't want to pay whatever upcharge for an Uber or a Lyft, $109 to take me 4 miles. It's a lot less expensive than thousands of dollars for legal fees for your DUI. And however that affects you not being able to work and whatnot and losing your license. Even more so, there is no cost that you can put on taking someone's life. We talked about this just a couple of weeks ago, just last week with Natalie Haas from the Lucas County Health Department, talking safe driving when it comes to roundabouts and people biking. I hate this more than anything in the world. 2 people died who didn't, completely preventable. My very dear friend, my dear hockey-loving friend that I don't talk about really ever on the podcast, but she's still a very close friend. I could call her up right now and we'd have an hour conversation about all things sports and stuff like this. She had pointed out that shame on the people that didn't take this person's keys. And you know what? You've got some culpability and accountability too. I guess akin to how we do charge bars and restaurants that I believe overserve. We had that issue at the place that is, I don't know what the hell the place is now. I think it was Chuck's, the place on Monroe outside of Kroger. I think they overserved somebody a little bit before I got here. The person drove the wrong way. Horrific situation. In the same way that the shooter up in Oxford, Michigan, they charged his parents with accountability and responsibility. It's hard, but I do hope that the people who could have taken away his keys, could have stopped him, whoever he was around, I hope you feel heavy because you could have prevented this. And when you ask somebody, hey, are you okay to drive? Don't trust them. If they say, yeah, of course I am, don't trust them. On a lighter note, sports, big wins for UT and BG last night. No surprise there. Enjoy your Ohio State and Michigan games this weekend. One thing from my very dear friend, Katie, who does accessibility initiatives with Toledo Museum of Art. She's the one I often have discussions with about centipedes. So I've told you before, I'm pretty... I can handle bugs now much more than you lived in Florida I lived in Florida long enough to be able to handle bugs, even some pretty big ones. It's these because they're too goddamn fast. The centipedes. I don't like the centipedes. Not one stinking bit. The more legs you have in my home, the more I want to kill you. Katie sent me this last night. Leaf of Life was the probably Facebook page. Just looking at it turns my stomach like a Band-Aid. Hello, I'm a house centipede. I'm your friend. Please don't hurt me and leave me be because I'm cleaning your house for you of all those nasty bugs you don't want, such as cockroaches. I'm not dangerous. I do not pose the same issues as other household pests. I'm not known to carry or spread diseases, harmful bacteria the way cockroaches do. I don't eat away at the structure of your home for years, undetected like termites. I'm fast and have long legs, which may frighten some people, but I'm harmless. Since I feed on small arthropods, including pest insects, if you see large numbers of me, this may indicate another underlying pest issue. Sorry, you have to die. That was some kind of propaganda. You know who wrote that? One of the centipedes. I'm sorry. I don't like killing things. I try not to step on ants. These things have to die. I'm so sorry. I do not have cockroaches in my home. I leave the little house spiders that I see. I leave them be. They can take care of the pests that I don't want. But these things frighten the hell out of me. So much so, stunningly, like as this was all some like evil, sinister, devious, coordinated effort by the centipedes. House centipedes. Don't call them house centipedes. That makes them think that they're welcome. Took the dogs outside last night, and I don't take them out. We just literally go right outside the front door for our evening time. Go outside the front door. I'm 8 feet from the front door. It's dark. I look up. I'm like, what is like the brick above the door looked weird. Looked like there was a texture there. I'm like, what is that? I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, they've really coordinated this. It was no lie, the biggest house centipede I've ever seen. So I had a decision to make. Do I try to kill it? Because it is so close to my home. It can fall down and scurry inside and cause and eat cockroaches. Okay, sure you can. I could try to kill it, but if I miss, it will likely become angered and violent and bring its friends inside my house. So I neglected to allow it to live, and we, without suddenness, went in the house. We didn't dart in. We just went in as we normally would. When I came out this morning, he was gone. Hopefully he was like, you know what? This dude's cool. He let me live. I will go be someone else's house centipede. I'm glad she's in the house. For our first podcast, when we did this a couple of years ago, we were still doing virtual phone things. It is so good to see her. She is the executive director of Connecting Kids to Meals. Let's talk to Wendi Huntley right now. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Thanks for making some time.
Absolutely. Always for you.
I wish that were the case. You got a packed schedule. For those that don't know, because we did this 2 years ago.
Yes, we did.
It's been 3 summers of Connecting Kids to Meals since we first connected.
Absolutely.
And we'll review all that. But what's Connecting Kids to Meals?
Connecting Kids to Meals is a hunger relief organization, nonprofit organization. We're based downtown, and so we serve hot, healthy meals to kids all throughout the region. And what we do is we focus on out of school time, so after school hours and the summer months when we know that kids become increasingly vulnerable.
How have the last 3 summers been since we've connected? 22 was still a little COVID-ish, and then I know some rules changed for you to get kids to meals. What have the summers been like?
Yeah, the summers are always super duper crazy. Through COVID, it just stayed crazy. So before COVID, everything was kind of a little bit more calm with our enrolled partner sites during after school. But summer has always been crazy. But, we've had a struggle with just getting everyone, the kids, family members, parents, grandparents, caregivers, acclimated to the fact that we don't do grab and go, because we did that for 2.5 years through the first portions of COVID. And then the rules changed. As you mentioned, we had to go back to kids eating on site. And so we've seen this slow uptick and just kind of folks getting accustomed to it. And so now we're back to, some I'll say, pre-pandemic levels of activity. But we're really looking to continue to build out our summer meal program, because we know that, again, that's when so many of our kiddos that rely on school meals don't have access to those meals, and our school districts partner with us. Several of them partner with us in order to make sure that sites are located in convenient places for their students. If
someone is thinking, I might have seen them over the summer, since you've described what you do, where are these places that you have been all summer long for the last few years?
Absolutely. So during the summer and during the after school portion of our programming, we are at our libraries. We're at our Boys and Girls Clubs. We're at other community centers around the community. We are at our schools. So if our schools are doing after school programming, or even our sports teams,
City parks
city parks and pools in the summertime, we're pretty much so. Just think about anywhere where kids are going to gather. We want to partner to make sure that those kiddos all have access to healthy meals and can just enjoy being kids and being with their friends.
Yeah.
That is the most important thing for us, is to break down the stigmas attached to kids that are from low income areas or underserved areas. We want kids to just be able to take advantage of all the great programming that our program partners and stakeholders in our community provide.
What you say stigmas, but I think you just said like low income. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Is that a stigma that some of these kids won't eat if they don't go to school? Or is that just an unfortunate reality?
No, it's the truth.
Yeah.
We have kids that don't want others to know that they are poor.
So it's within who you serve, not necessarily outsiders.
Exactly.
Got it.
So
okay.
what we try to do is we try to go where they already are, so that, there's no showing your ID or anything to get our meals. You don't have to give your zip code. You don't have to do all of those things. So that's how we're a little different from food banks and some of the SNAP program and WIC programs and all of those other safety nets. Our programs have been created by USDA in order to be a complementary service, so that kids can just be comfortable where they are. If they're engaged in art classes, if they're in STEM classes, if they're in sports, if they're, out at the pools, they just come and get a meal because they're hungry, right? They don't have to worry about all of those other requirements that are usually asked of them.
What kind of food is it? Where does it come from? What kind of things do you whip up for the kids?
Well, I'm the president and CEO, but I'm also the chief taste testing officer.
Is that your favorite part of the job?
It is absolutely my favorite
Yeah.
part of the job. But yeah, we have a very robust menu. It is about a 3-week rotating menu. And so what we try to do is make sure we infuse in some foods that kids like. We survey our kids and find out what they like of the items that we're serving. We also ask them what additional things would they like for us to serve. And then we go about trying to make sure that we do the research to make sure that it meets the program requirements, because everything that kids want us to serve, we can't serve. And of course, when we ask them in our surveys, what do you want more of?
Pizza,
They
tacos,
want
tater
pizza
tots.
every day. And we're like,
Yeah.
we can't do that every day. But we do want to make sure that our meals are hot. Of the 3-week menu, all of the days except for one day represent hot meals. So I have to give my staff a moment to kind of gather themselves and get pulled together. But we do pizza, absolutely. We do cheeseburger sliders. We do, a baked chicken leg. We do a wide range of things. There is a distinct difference in the requirements of what we do during the after school meal program versus the summer meal program. And so there are some nuances that my amazing team is able to handle. And so, for part of the after school program, we have to have a certain number of ounces and a certain differentiation between the vegetables. Mm-hmm. That doesn't exist in the summer. There is also the elevated fruit requirement in the summer of the number of days that you provide it. And so there are these differences that actually take place. And so my team really crosses the T's and they dot the I's, because if we don't provide a credible meal, it's not just about putting together something for kids to eat.
Yeah.
We have to provide a credible meal, which means it has to meet the nutrition requirements of the USDA. And our goal is always to exceed those requirements and to exceed the amount of food that's being provided. But again, we also have to balance that against the costs associated with those food items, which is continuing to beat us over the head.
Can you explain or break down the fruit part of it, like why after school and other times are different? Use the fruit example if you would.
Yeah. So, what happens is in the program requirements, they really dig deep into the nutrition requirements, but they also are recognizing how much more of a demand takes place on the sponsors like us or the schools that decide to run summer programs. And so the goal overarching by USDA is to make the summer easier for the kids to access meals. So there are also different eligibility requirements. And then they also want to make it easier for us as sponsors and school operators to be able to get meals out to the kids. So by way of example, we're providing 2,500 meals a day during after school meals. In the summer months, we're doing around 6,000, maybe 6,500. And so when you think about just the simplicity of there are 2 vegetables that are required during after school, 1 during summer, the transportation attached to us making the commitment that food is going to be hot, you're talking about 2 Cambros for the different vegetables based on the size of the site versus 1. And so even as it relates to how much equipment is needed and has to be transported and unloaded and loaded again by my delivery team and then the partners who are serving the meals, you're talking about a lot more requirements. And so summertime is intended to streamline that and make it easier for us to not just prepare the meals, but also deliver and make sure that the meals get to the right locations.
I hope people are understanding what a massive operation you're running here. And even if they've just maybe seen a billboard of connecting kids to meals, it's kind of like the peaceful duck on top of the water, but swimming really hard underneath it.
Absolutely. And I tell people, Eric, all the time, we do provide meals, but we're really a logistics company. We have to get the right number of meals to the right location on the right day, because everybody doesn't do programming all at the same times at the right time, because you're only allowed to serve meals during an approved window of time, and then at the right temperature. So all of those factors are things that we're juggling each and every day that we're operating, trying to make sure that kids get healthy meals.
It's Amazon level stuff.
It is. It is.
What is a day for you like? What is a day for volunteers and your employees like? You talked about 2,500 in the summer, 6,000?
Yes.
Wait, no, 2,500 during the school year, 6,000 during the summer.
Correct.
What is a day like when you walk into work or when you check your first email? What's a day like?
Well, in the summertime, it's, I'm looking at probably about 50 emails, and I did check the email the night before. So during the after school time, I'm walking into maybe 10 or 12. And so, for me, it's more administrative because I raise the dollars. I write for the grants. I actually engage the community and work with our stakeholders at higher levels. But our workers are there, and we have different production teams. So we have a hot production team. They deal with all the hot foods. We have our cold production team. They deal with the milk and all of the cold items like the celery sticks or the carrots and so forth. And then we have a shelf stable production team. And so they put together the crackers or the chips or the food trays and the sport kits that have to go. And then all of those teams have to follow a production sheet. And then all of those meal components come to our staging area, where then our delivery drivers will check everything to make sure it's all accurate. And then they will load those onto our vehicles that then travel all throughout the region to make sure that kids get meals. I
got to wonder if you've ever come across people who are restaurant owners or whatnot, or if there's someone who knows the restaurant business who's listening right now. Maybe they're thinking, and I thought I had it hard. I thought the health department was coming after me. Like the things you're talking about, like getting it into the window of, and you're accounting for traffic and all those kinds of wild things. Logistics doesn't explain it any better than that. No, absolutely. There are a lot of moving parts to what we do. And certainly we don't get everything right all the time every day, because you're talking about thousands of meals. But I would dare say my team is committed, and that we do a really good job. I won't say excellent all the time, but that's just realistic, right? You're dealing in thousands of meals. But we try our best to fix the issues. If we forget the food trays or we forget some aspect, we're trying to make sure we resolve everything very quickly, because we have oversight that takes place from the Ohio Department of Education, but then we also have oversight that's happening from the Ohio Department of Agriculture, and we have an inspector in our kitchen every day for a few hours watching everything that we're doing to ensure that we're complying with food safety rules and regulations. So when people think about the meals that are actually being served to the kids, it's going through an immense process to ensure that it's actually meeting all of those requirements that we've been talking about. How many employees do you have? Yeah, we have about 65 employees year round, but the majority, probably 45 of those individuals are part-time. So there may be, some folks that are just servers, and they'll go to the library, right, on Reynolds Road, Reynolds Library. And then our delivery truck delivers the meal to that particular location. So they don't come to the facility, but they are a part of our team. They come for training. They come for our, staff meetings and things like that. But we are the perfect location for retirees. They love working with us because you don't have to commit to a full day.
You're able to feed kids, right? I mean, what more joy could there be than providing a hungry kid with a wonderful attitude and a wonderful meal? That is the perfect scenario. So about a 2-hour window commitment. And so we have about 65 employees during the school year. And then the rest of the summer, we actually add anywhere from 25 to 35, sometimes even 40 more employees that have to help us, because we go from about 95 to 100 sites during the school year to about 150. So we have to have additional help in the summertime, because during the after school program, we're serving meals anywhere between 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock. During the summer months, we could be serving breakfast, we could be serving lunch, we could be serving a snack, we could be serving dinner, or combinations of all of those. And so meals are happening all day long in the summertime. So we have to have some additional support.
Out of curiosity, the retirees that you mentioned who would make for great employees, like, what do they get paid?
Oh, I don't know.
Or do you not want to mention that? If,
I mean, it's a decent rate,
Okay.
but you know what I mean?
You're not paying $25 an hour.
No,
Okay, I get
because
it.
you're working a couple of hours a
Right.
day, and so it's pocket change, right?
Right.
Most of them are retired, they have their pensions, but they still want to remain active.
Yeah.
And so we recognize their value and make sure that they're appreciated. And we have a whole lot of other things that we do for our employees. We'll have to have somebody come in and talk about that, but we really make sure that we focus on engaging employees and retention rates. And so we want to make sure that our employees are having a good experience, because if they're having a good experience, they're going to pass along a good experience to the kids.
We see the Amazon trucks all over the place.
Yeah.
I hit Reynolds Airport every day, and it's like a line of the midnight navy blue Amazon trucks. You
With the
mentioned
lights.
Yeah. Your stuff is in here. Whatever. The smiles. You bring smiles too. You mentioned 90 to 100 locations. That's Amazon delivery. Like how does that happen? How many vehicles do you have?
Yeah, so right now we have 10 vehicles in order to deliver meals all around the region, but we're looking at our process, right? So we just hired a couple of months ago a new logistics coordinator who comes to us from Amazon. And
Look at
so,
that.
she's really bringing a wealth of experience and is really helping us to really look at our routes, look at our efficiencies, look at how many vehicles we need, look at the maintenance of those vehicles and so forth. So she's really, really helping us to hone in on some of those details. But right now, it's 10 vehicles, a wing and a prayer. But we also have a few of our partners that are nearby. They'll come and actually pick up their meals and then take
Great.
them back. That helps us with our footprint.
Where does the food come from? Where does the funding come from?
Absolutely. Great questions. Our food, we are obviously running federal programs, so we have to purchase our food from a USDA vendor, approved vendor, or we also are part of a national buying group. But we do work locally with some folks, and so we're able to support local businesses. But the challenge becomes they may not be able to keep up with our volume requirements. Every day, right, we need 2,500 apples.
Yeah.
Some may not be able to provide that. And so we try very hard to work with our local vendors to support them. And so what happens in the program, our federal programs allow for us to receive a reimbursement rate that's set by the government, but it's not intended to, and certainly does not, cover the cost of the food. And so what happens is we have a gap in funding, and so we have to fundraise to cover the cost of the food. So, for example, if we're receiving $4.36 for a meal, but the meal costs us $6.06, we have to fundraise, write for grants, and figure out how to cover the added gap. But what's interesting, and I want people and our listeners in particular to pay attention to, we will work with, let's say, our Boys and Girls Club on Homer Hannum. They'll say we need 50 meals because we got 50 kids we're expecting after school. Mm-hmm. We send 50 meals. If they serve 40, we are able to get reimbursement for the 40 meals served. So we still cover that gap of the 40 meals, but then we got to cover the cost of the 10 meals at $6.06. Mm-hmm. So, when we fundraise, it's really to support the program, but it's also to ensure that our sites are getting enough meals so that if they get more kids than they anticipate, they're not left without any food for kids. I go out and serve during the summertime in particular, and I've had that experience where I ran out of meals. And I had a little 9-year-old skipping up to the table, happy as can be because he was getting ready to get a meal, and I was out of meals.
What do you do?
I went to my car, got a breakfast bar, and just told him, "Dude, come back tomorrow. I promise you I'll have another
First
meal."
in line.
Absolutely.
You mentioned the vendors. Who might they be? Would they be names that we're familiar with? Would it be like a Kroger or a local farmer?
Yeah, so no, we don't deal with the larger providers like that, although Kroger is a absolute sponsor and supporter of what we do. And so we work in partnership with them. But we work with Toffs for our dairy, for our milk needs. We work with, we were working up until a few weeks ago with Oak and Produce. And so we're transitioning to another produce company that's local. We have to go out for bid and, get all the pricing and so forth. And so it's no small undertaking to actually change. We also have worked with La Perla right here on Hill Avenue because we had some particular tortilla chips created with our name and logo on the packaging.
Excellent.
And stuff. So we try to figure out how we can support local. It's not an easy endeavor and it's time consuming, but we're committed to doing those things. And so those are just some of the examples. So we also work with Sun Valley out of Detroit because they are the best source for us for some fruit cups.
I think you're a couple of years older than I am, but you look like you're 37.
Well, I appreciate that.
How, other than being really good at golf and escaping in that way and watching lots of great basketball, how we've all been dealing with high food costs. It's the number one thing on most people's minds. When this started to creep up on you, how did you not forget gray hair, lose all your hair?
By the grace of God, quite frankly. It has been a very, very difficult thing for our organization. And the challenge becomes, there was a window of time over the last few years where inflation spiked nearly 30+%. So right now, the narrative is, oh, we're so glad because inflation is less than what we expected. It's only at 2.9%.
But it's up from where it was.
But it's still up 30+%. So let me give you a perfect example. We try really hard to provide, raw fruit. So fresh fruit, right? Then we have fruit cups, right? The other way in which we provide the fruit is we actually get the big number 10 cans because it's cost effective for us. We scoop everything out and make sure that the kids get the right portion. However, the number 10 cans have increased by 87% per case. 87%. That's just one item.
So how'd you manage all this?
Again, we make sure that our funders, our corporate funders and our grant funders know what we're challenged with. And then we've tried to really ramp up our annual campaign, which is actually getting ready to kick off on September 1st, which is our Hunger Action Month campaign. And so that is our main fundraiser throughout the year. And we have put a lot of effort behind it, a lot of ingenuity and creativity behind it to try to elevate that visibility to make sure that people understand we have a child food insecurity issue in our community. In Lucas County alone, 1 out of every 4 kids is food insecure. And then we're also talking in this campaign in particular, but it happens all year long, to get folks to volunteer. And so Hunger Action Month is about awareness, volunteering, and hopefully donating, because every dollar helps us. And fortunately for us, we've been able to raise $175,000 from our match sponsors. But what that means is you shouldn't sit back and say, well, I don't need to give because Connecting Kids to Meals has $175,000. No, we need you to give in order to unlock it. So $100 becomes $200. $10 becomes $20. It doesn't matter what the amount is. We've convinced our match sponsors, who I've got to just give a shout out to a couple of them, Designetics, Kripke Enterprises, as well as our third sponsor that has been so supportive of us, Mercy Health. We've got to make sure that folks know those folks have really helped to make this happen in a significant way. We also have some diamond sponsors and some other gold sponsors and contributing sponsors, but these folks have laid out some major dollars. And so I just want to take a second and say thanks to them, but to all our sponsors. They've been able to help us to get this treasure trove of dollars available so that people's dollars can go further this month. But you don't have to just donate. You'd also go to restaurants. We have a number of restaurants. Visit our website at connectingkidstomeals.org, and you'll be able to see the various restaurants where you can go on a particular day, and they're going to make a donation back to us. And then last but certainly not least, on the 28th of September, the last Saturday, from 10 a.m. to noon, we're going to be doing a big outdoor packing event where people can sign up online and they can come and help us pack weekend bags for kids, because hunger doesn't stop.
Yeah.
And so we provide our hot weekday meals, but we also provide a weekend bag on Fridays for kids to have healthy snacks over the weekend.
Is that going to be at your facility downtown?
It's going to be right in the open lot right across from our facility downtown.
Last question or so, you gave out the website and told people to get involved, so I didn't have to ask that question.
Yep.
Good timing for Hunger Awareness Month. You have a new location, a new building coming?
Yeah, so not
Kinda,
quite.
sorta?
Yeah, we're so fortunate. The Lucas County Commissioners, shout out to those folks over there, to the Board of Commissioners. They have absolutely recognized the need in our community, and they have worked with our one of our local school districts to ensure that we're receiving the transfer of what is the open lot right across from our facility. So the formerly Whitney High School lot is being transferred over to our organization, where we are envisioning and we are in our stages of planning to determine facility, what the actual use will be for that particular space. So until my board tells me what my plan is,
Right.
I can't really say what my plan is, but I have ideas.
What are some of the other things besides pizza you learned from these surveys from the kids? Because kids say the darndest things.
They do. So, one of our partners, Books and Basketball, they just did a survey over the summer because, of course, a lot of our partners receive funding from the City of Toledo, CDBG funding, funding from some of our foundations, Greater Toledo Community Foundation. And so they do surveys themselves, and then they share that information with us. So Carter completed a survey, and I just got it yesterday. That's why I remember his name. He's 9.
Okay.
And he wrote in his feedback in his survey that he really appreciated the Books and Basketball, the program that he attended at the YMCA. Janae Hicklin, you did a great job. He said, I loved this summer because I learned about basketball. I was able to eat better food. He said food better, but better food.
Totally fine.
And I was able to hang out with my friends. What an amazing testimony, right?
That's what you want to do.
What we all should be focused on doing for our kids in our community. We all need one another. The service agencies need one another. Those that are going out there and actually providing this great work, we need the funders to be a part of this. We want the families to get their kids involved in all these things. So it takes everybody to actually do these things to make sure kids have meaningful experiences. And so we're just one part of the equation. But for September, we're going to be front and center talking about this issue, making sure that people understand we need your help. We need you to be a superhero.
You and I have talked about this before in just personal conversation, life conversation. It's common amongst your contemporaries like Cherry Street and United Way. What you've discussed for the last 20 minutes is not necessarily a food issue. It's a poverty issue. Can you
Absolutely.
talk to that higher level topic and just why it's such a big deal and why it's such an albatross right now?
Absolutely. We have tens of thousands of families in our community that are struggling financially. So what they're doing is they're having to make the decisions between paying their rent, paying for utilities, putting gas in their car.
All more expensive.
All more expensive, putting gas in their car, which if they have a car, or paying for transportation, making sure that they have insurance or the other necessities covered. Then they're thinking about healthy food, right? So when we think about the ramifications of folks that are struggling financially and are living in poverty, hunger is a byproduct of that. And so when we think of what we need to do as a community to lift up those families in our community, we need to give them the better. Number one, we need to provide the support that Connecting Kids to Meals is providing, our homelessness board is providing, our behavioral health partners are providing the immediate help. But we need to make sure that we're staying focused on those long-term solutions to help lift those families out of poverty so that they are able to have a good, meaningful experience. Because when you are in survival mode, you aren't able to make great decisions.
Yeah.
You're making decisions for the right here, right now moment, not what might be best for, number one, your kids or for yourself. And so we've got to get people out of survival mode and into a place where they can grow and they can learn and they can live better lives, because their kids are watching, but they're not just watching, they're feeling what their parents are experiencing. So the stress attached with not knowing where the next meal is going to come from is real.
I had some friends in here from the health department not that long ago talking about the Healthy Corner Store initiative,
Yes.
which I absolutely love. And we discussed this a little bit. One of the things was, and you know this, a lot of people that were talking about their parents, they live in lower income communities and they do not have easy access to healthy foods, which hopefully the Corner Store initiative can take off and really supply that, fill that gap. One of the issues, and you know this, is in these lower income communities, it's hard to access the healthy food. It's this weird paradoxical conundrum. Healthy food is often much cheaper. I mean, even before COVID hit, I hope people
More
knew.
expensive, the healthier food.
Well, from the sense of like go around the perimeter of the supermarket.
Yes,
like
yes.
fruits, vegetables, and stuff. And the unhealthy stuff has really skyrocketed in prices.
No question.
It's like $6 for a shrinkflated bag. I apologize for killing Doritos, but they're my go-to. It's like $6 for a family size
That's half full.
shrinkflated. Yeah, it's like I'm paying for air here.
Yeah.
And in these lower income communities, it's a lot of the. A lot of Dollar General places.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this weird conundrum, like this is the only place they have to go, so they have to eat this, which is not the healthiest food. It's not only is not very healthy, it's also more expensive, and it's, I don't know if it's intentionally predatory, and I know there's so many things trying, maybe it is a little bit, but as a friend told me, it's like you're better to have a Dollar General and at least you're eating rather than not eating at all, I suppose. Talk about that in some of those communities, how it is just this paradox of the only place they have to eat, even if they do like fruits and vegetables, it's so hard to get to them. So they're stuck with what is in a convenience store or something like that. Again, you're not getting what you're serving to these kids or aim to in these neighborhoods that only have access to that stuff.
Yeah, the problem in our community is we as you're talking about, our food deserts.
Yeah.
And when you think of the inability to get to your nearby Kroger, for example, if you're in a low income or underserved area, you're riding the bus.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're trying to have your 2 kids with you, and then you're going to go shopping, and then you're going to take 8 bags back on the bus to get back home. I mean, think about that.
Yeah, you just don't see it.
You're not doing it. So, the challenge becomes, how do we help, again, bring this issue to the forefront, talk about investments in the low-income and underserved areas, investments such as was made in connection with the eBide the eBide store that is downtown.
Market on the Green you're talking about?
Market on the Green. And then you also have, one other grocery store downtown.
Seaway.
Seaway. So think about that. The majority of downtown is served by 2 grocery stores, one of which, Market on the Green, is not even that big.
Mm-hmm.
How are all of the families that are downtown, what are they doing?
Yeah.
What are we supposed to do?
How are you getting to Kroger?
We really need to think through as a community, how do we address that issue? But we also have to, again, remind ourselves, until we get a plan, until we begin to implement that plan, and I think there's some amazing organizations and coalitions that are in our community identifying, doing the research, doing the assessments, and identifying what's necessary. But it's the financial investment that has to be made by our county, our state, federally, our city, our local. Everyone needs to be on the same page, and you and I both know that that's a challenge because everybody has their pet projects. Everybody has the things that they want to see happen and feel like needs to happen, and so we understand that. But I think for our organization at Connecting Kids to Meals, it's really raising the drumbeat to make sure that folks understand when you have kids that are hungry, they can't learn, they can't focus, and they're going to have health-related issues if they don't get nutritious food on a regular basis. So how do we, as one player, how do we work in a community towards a better day, a better picture of what our community looks like? Because these are the very same kids that are going to be leading this community, teaching kids in this community, becoming doctors and hopefully healing folks and operating on these folks in the community. They're going to be business owners in our community. We need to empower these kids now to live better lives, to get better access to healthy foods. But it's going to take a major conservative effort from all aspects of our community.
Small C conservative. It's easy to draw a through line. This is not some imaginary scenario I made up in my head. You talked about the kid that is hungry and can't concentrate in school. Can't concentrate in school. Grades begin to dwindle. School becomes less important. When school becomes less important, you don't go as much. When you don't go as much to school, and maybe you got a mom that's working 60 hours a week, not home, you're on your own. I would hope it would be great if you're just playing video games, but a lot of time, especially in these neighborhoods, you wind up out on the streets.
Yes, sir.
And it's either the streets will take your life or they will take you to jail in a lot of cases.
Absolutely.
It's not hard to draw that through line that comes back to why supporting kids in so many ways from their bellies to their minds is so GD important.
Absolutely. And we didn't even talked about taking their lives, but we didn't even talk about how many of our kids, when they are hungry, are going to end up in the criminal system.
That's what I meant.
Let's just start with kids are going to try to steal food.
Of course.
We've talked about it. We've seen it happen in our community.
Yeah.
And so they're stealing food because they're hungry.
Yeah.
And so they will do different things because it means they will get a meal. And so we've got to make sure we think through all the levels of the challenges of what's going on in our community, because what's ultimately at stake is not just what's happening next month or next year. It's what's happening 10 years from now. We need to think about that. And
it comes fast.
Oh my gosh, think about how fast this year.
Yeah.
What didn't we just have some snow on the ground in March?
Well,
like it felt like that was last week.
COVID was 4+ years ago. A time that we saw that the time moved like slower than a dead snail.
Absolutely.
It was 4 years ago, and it was like medical and science history that we were able to get out of as fast as we were.
Absolutely.
With vaccines and whatnot. But that's 4 years ago. We're in the hold on. Here's what I like to throw people. We're in the middle of the third decade of the 21st century.
I know.
Here comes 2030. It'll hit us fast.
We're going to blink and it is going to be 2030. And then these kids that are in 4th and 5th grade will be graduating.
Hopefully.
Hopefully,
yeah,
right, that they're still in school.
If we don't work on these problems.
Correct.
And we've done a better job. And I love that we have reevaluated everything from policing to teaching to after school activities. But I had said from 4 years ago, and this is just the Philly cynic in me, once COVID subsides, a lot of these bad things will subside as well. We will have less free time and the minds won't wander as much for the devil's playground. But it's good that we've opened some eyes with people, and what like ARPA money has been able to do, and get you kids fed through the summertime. So we just have to continue these practices, because the ARPA money is going to stop real soon, like next year.
Yeah, all of it has to be declared by this December and spent within certain pockets moving forward. And so, those investments, great. I'm glad we had those. Yeah. But we had best be able to look back in 5-6 years and to say the $180+ million, or the $86 million that the county got, the $180 that the city got, the $160 that the school district got. What were we able to do as a community with these hundreds of millions of dollars? And I am hopeful that we'll look back and be able to say those were great investments. We've certainly benefited to a certain extent. Other nonprofits have benefited. There's been some investments into, programming for kids in the summer months years ago.
That's the one that I was thinking of most, where I was shouting from the rooftops. If it wasn't 21, it was 22, where there is so much for kids to do in the summertime, and I think the city did a much better job in the ensuing years of marketing that, and Tarda's Blast Pass for kids and everything.
Correct.
But I know the city also has said, if you follow the news a little bit, it's not glamorous by any means, but we have to find a way to fund all this stuff, or else a lot of it's going to stop, which affects you, because at all these kid events in the summertime, you're taking meals.
Exactly.
And to your point, I don't know if you were walking there or not, but it can't be the kind of thing like, okay, we gave out all that money, we're out of COVID, back to business as usual. No, we can't do that.
We can't do that, because the viability of our youth, which means the viability and the future of our community, is at stake. And so those investments, there should be a quantifiable response and result reporting out what has happened, but also there needs to be an acknowledgement that we see and we saw the impact of these investments. And so now we're going to continue and we're going to redirect some dollars to ensure that we may not be able to continue as the city, for example, to put $10 million into summer programming, but we sure can't stay at $500,000, hypothetically.
Right.
We need to move that up, recognizing that we've actually seen the benefits from that $10 million once in a lifetime type of investment. We need to make sure that we're recognizing that that investment was not just a willy-nilly decision, but it was something that we knew needed to happen, but we also recognize it needs to continue to be funded.
It's in a larger picture, and this isn't sexy. Whether you're reading a news article or watching the news, they're quick hits. You're going to have to read a 2,000-word think piece about why those programs help fight crime. Because
Correct.
there are kids that you have fed in the last couple of years. There was a Carter 2 years ago who got a meal from you who maybe didn't at home and maybe was ready to go down a really bad path. But instead, he got reinvested back into his community, his family, his life. And this sounds grim, but it's a reality. He did not pick up that gun.
That's right. That's right. We were able to offer a meal alongside of some amazing partners who were able to offer engaging and fun activities and educational and enrichment opportunities for our youth. That's what has to continue to happen in order to steer the kids away from the bad elements that are out there.
More police is a great political. I've read this recently as there's been some adjustments in the upcoming presidential race. Good policy doesn't always make for good politics.
Yeah.
Good politics is fight crime, more police. Good policy is everything you've discussed for the last 30 minutes.
Absolutely. And it's the realities,
Yeah.
right, of what life really is about, and how are we going to devise a strategy for creating the appropriate ultimate outcome that we want. I think there are too many people checking the boxes in things. And they check the box because, it sounds like it's good and it sounds like it would get us to the desired end. But have we really looked at, if I check this box and I fund this program or I do this particular initiative, will it get me to this desired end? Not just, I think it will. No, you have to make investment and do the things that are going to bring about a healthier community, a more robust community, a community where year over year, 5% more of our kids are engaged in more programming. It doesn't mean that you go from, only a few kids are engaged to we got to get every kid engaged.
Yeah.
That's unrealistic. But small incremental steps towards a desired goal is what is needed in every community, but in particular in our community, in order to make sure that we have a viable future.
Let me put you on the hottest of seats.
Sure.
This might be the most challenging question that I've asked you during our time, which I always enjoy so much. And I'm glad that other people get to hear us having a conversation. That's all this has been.
Thank you.
For the first time since the middle of the last decade or the late tens, will there be a repeat NBA champion? If not, who will it be?
You really want to put me on the spot. Lord have mercy.
Wendi is a massive basketball fan.
Yeah, I'm going to always pull from my Warriors. I think what Steph Curry has done is just transformed the NBA, much like Michael Jordan did. But I don't know, sitting here today, unless they make some trades, I don't know that they can pull off the impossible. I'll tell you from the East, I absolutely like Philly. I absolutely like Boston.
Don't, unless you're some kind of health fairy.
I know.
I'm out.
Well, hopefully they got some folks eating better, right? That's the starting point. But, there's some folks who are just injury prone.
Whatever can keep Joel Embiid from falling down all the time.
I love it.
Whatever Paul, stop.
I love it. But Paul George, hopefully he'll stay healthy, but Maxey is on the upswing.
He's great. He's a great kid.
Yeah, they're going to miss Melton, though, I can tell you that. They're going to miss him.
They've made some nice moves on the periphery. But it's about their three. And beyond anything, if Paul George becomes an otherworldly player again and rediscovers his 26-year-old Pacers days.
That's right.
If it's 26 and 8 like LeBron-like lines, if Embiid fall down, go boom, and is out for half the season, it doesn't matter.
No, you're okay.
So I'll repeat the question.
Yeah.
Will we have a repeat champion? If not, who?
No, I think this is the year that OKC steps forward.
Yeah.
I do. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and they are building a monstrous team out there, because when you look at from 1 to 10, right? When you look at the guys from 1 to 10, in most instances on most teams, you can go from 1 to 6 and have very, very solid players. Very, very. And if you have your big three, then you still have another 3 guys that are really solid. OKC is putting together a ridiculous group of kids, and they're young, they're athletic, and they listen to their coach, and they have a very, very mature leader in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I'll tell you the only team that may blow things up, because I just don't know what's going to happen.
Blow things up? Minnesota?
Memphis. Ja Morant comes back.
Wait, you mean blow it up in a good way or a bad way?
Blow it up in the sense that they could be the dark horse that no one's really talking about, because if Ja Morant comes back with a proper level of maturity, they have the other pieces in place to really challenge for a championship. If he comes back less than focused and healthy, they will not do squat.
I think other teams have widened the gap to where Memphis was. It's his suspension really set them backwards. An organization that has done more than expected for basically their whole existence being in Memphis, the old grit and grind days. And the West is absolutely loaded.
Oh my gosh. I think I would ask for a trade just to get out of the West, right? I mean, my God, they're loaded. You mentioned Minnesota. Anthony Edwards is without question the rising star.
Sure.
Because Shai, folks already know about him, but Anthony Edwards is maturing before our very eyes into a legitimate superstar. The problem with Minnesota becomes the rest of the squad, but not even just necessarily the rest of the starting 5. It's the next 5.
On the money, too.
They can't do it. So Minnesota, I like them. They're entertaining. Cat is up and down. Who knows what you're going to get, but I do think that they could be in the mix, but I wouldn't count on them this year.
Who's your favorite player ever? If it's Steph, give me another one. From when you were a kid growing up.
Yeah, Michael Jordan.
Okay.
I mean, I don't even understand why people are saying that LeBron is even close.
Yeah.
But, I have this fight all the time, and I just tell people, the reality is this. We live in the last 10 years in particular in an era where the social media component and the internet, those things have completely transformed everything. ESPN has 18 channels at this point. ESPN 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the ability to see the players is much greater than back in the 90s and the early 2000s. And so when you think of the eyes on the players, the people right now think that LeBron is better, but they have no idea. If they just would take a moment, take their rose-colored LeBron glasses off and go back and watch some of the footage. Michael Jordan overcame some of the most physical play. They came up with the Jordan rules because the goal was beat that joker up if he comes in this lane.
Yeah. It was
take him down.
It became violent abuse. The Knicks in the mid '90s. Yeah,
and the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah, I always LeBron. I think I'll go. He's the second greatest player ever.
No
but there's a huge gap with Jordan, and even if people are diehard LeBron against Jordan, and I get why younger people would be.
Yeah.
Two things. When you pointed out like the eyes on people, I'm thinking as you're discussing that, LeBron's a megastar. Kobe, there was social media in the Kobe era.
No question.
Michael Jordan is still a mythical figure, even to young people. Like I think they know of him because he can get on the internet and watch the stuff as opposed to we didn't watch Wilt Chamberlain.
Right.
How big Michael Jordan is. He would be that times 100 in the social media era because 6 titles. And the thing I always throw at people, and I think I've said this to you before, Yes, to your point, like Jordan got the hell kicked out of him, like many scorers did in the 80s and 90s. And for people that want to go, well, he wasn't a three-point shooter. Well, it wasn't a three-point game.
Right.
So if he were in this era, one, he'd score 60 because you can't touch him.
Correct.
Two, he would have become an elite three-point shooter. And as he is already no worse than the second or third greatest player ever. In this era, he would widen that gap even more.
He would average 50, no question.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hands down. And what I will also tell you, which is the other component to what people don't really appreciate about his game, because people don't appreciate defense. This guy, the awards he received as Defensive Player of the Year and on first team all defense multiple times, that's the piece of the puzzle. People look at offense because that's what, right? That's what Steph has created, right? Mm-hmm. That's what most of these players are doing, this high-flying dunks and all that stuff. This guy was as good defensively, and when he decided you were not going to score on him, you were not going to get by him. There are very few players right now in the league that can turn that type of a mentality on defensively and offensively.
LeBron's one of them.
I don't think he's no way. In his prime, maybe he could have been close to it, but Kobe was the replica of that defensively.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Because the difference is this. I love LeBron. I think he's a fantastic player. But the difference between Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Allen Iverson, Steph Curry, these guys are killers. Like, they're going to put you away. LeBron just doesn't have it, whatever that is. He doesn't really think that way. So when you look at these guys, they would come down and it would be they're up by 6, but you've got 45 seconds, right? So they're going to come down and hit a 3, then they're going to go down, play great D, and then they're going to get the ball back, and before you can blink, you're down by 10 or 11, and it makes all the difference from quarter to quarter at that time.
LeBron did open schools, though, and I do appreciate that he's a nicer person.
Impact.
You know what? I think he probably heard. I'll never forget. It was 2012, and I don't know why this is burned in my brain. It was around the Linsanity era.
Yeah.
I think it was a game against Utah. LeBron passed up a shot, and he was probably 12, probably the Heat or maybe Heat. Passed up a shot to whoever, missed it. Utah wins the game, and It was he doesn't have the killer in him, and I know you know that he's a brilliant guy,
brilliant mind.
I think he was exasperated with hearing you don't have the killer mentality, and he did what any elite professional does, whatever they're good at, whatever their line of work is. He said, okay, that's not me, but what I am going to be is I'm going to be a really good teammate.
Absolutely.
I'm going to treat people better. I'm going to open schools. I'm never going to turn my back on my hometown.
Correct.
And that is a part of his legacy as well.
And he's diversified into other businesses. So when you think of the most
successful
business athletes that have had an imprint on
his LBJ is a production.
He does TV.
Yeah.
TV, movies. He is very, very diverse. The person that he emulates from an investing perspective from purely investing in financial is Warren Buffett. So if you got that, you're certainly going to do well. But he is in a lot of different spaces. In fact, he is an investor in Blaze Pizza. He's an investor in a wide range of businesses. And so Junior Bridgman, folks are like, who?
Who?
Junior Bridgman played with Milwaukee. He kind of set the tone. So you think of, what Shaq has done, what Magic has done. They all talk about Junior Bridgman. He was the first NBA player that really launched out in the business side of things, owning fast food restaurants, Burger Kings to be specific. That's where he started. He built an empire, and people are just like, Junior, who? What are you talking about? Look him up. Milwaukee Bucks.
Do you remember Vin Baker?
Vin Baker was the man.
Yeah.
Seattle. Remember he played with, he started in Seattle.
Are you sure?
But he was in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
But he played in Seattle with Ray Allen when he was in Seattle. Just an amazing. Vin Baker was so long, and he was very skilled around the basket.
He was one of those teams that I liked because I was a teenager in those era, and I was like, purple uniforms, awesome. But Allen, I think, was on maybe some of those Bucks teams, but
Yep.
Glenn Robinson, big dog.
Glenn Robinson.
And for whatever reason, I became a Vin Baker fan when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And I think he had a lot of injuries and that ate away his career. I think he battled alcoholism, but you talk
Yes, he
about.
did.
Do you know what he does now? I believe he's a big time Starbucks proprietor.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Could you imagine that? Like, you walk into your Starbucks, you think you have this corporate meeting, and there's like a 6'10" former NBA player.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sticks out like a sore thumb for
I
sure.
always enjoy our chats. I love you. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it. Remember, Hunger Action Month, connectingkidstomeals.org.
And the 28th.
The 28th is a big packing event
Okay.
outside.
Mark
10
me
to
down.
noon. All right.
Mark me
You'll
down.
be there. Love it.